But just a mile or so from the heath is a man who's doing his bit to redress the balance.
Well, so much of the modern English landscape has been defined by large-scale industrial farming. I've come to meet somebody who's not exactly turning the clock back, but looking into the past to see how traditional methods of farming can be used to create a much more local, resilient type of agriculture.
10 years ago, Simon Saggers returned to his roots with a very personal vision of what he wanted to create here.
Welcome.
You look hard at work.
Yeah, I'm just laying the hedge. It's the first thing we planted when we arrived, actually, 10 years ago. And it's just ready for laying, which was what we've done here.
So what did your small holding look like before you came here?
Actually, it was like that, which is a blank open field. And what we've done, this hedge, for instance, that I've laid this winter, was the first thing that we did. We planted this 9 years ago into a blank landscape. This whole field here was ploughed 10 years ago, well, 10 years this October, and we've reinstated everything that I'm going to show you today in that time.
So you've turned that prairie into this small holding in 10 years?
Yeah.
So can we go on a little tour and have a look around?
Yeah, sure. I'll take you up through the orchard.
Simon's family have owned this land for nearly 350 years, and it's seen many changes in that time as farming practices evolved. After the war, Simon's father ran a battery farm here. Now the chicken sheds have been replaced by Simon's eco-friendly family home.
The whole concept behind what we were trying to achieve was trying to create a self-reliant holding, and a holding that one family could manage. So we consciously planted a woodland, as you've seen, things that give us woodland work in the winter. And then through here we've got a series of vegetable fields which provide most of the spring-summer work.
And what are the hedges for? Because we're walking through one hedge after another as we're coming through here.
Well, the hedges, in part, they're that sort of Victorian kitchen garden idea where you've got an enclosed area protected from the winds that whip across, as you can see from the turbine. But it's also habitat. And so that habitat is really important when you're going organically, because you're trying to balance your natural pests and your predators, trying to create that natural ecosystem.
Simon's also restoring another element of the historic landscape.
So this is the woodland that we planted 10 years ago, and it's a coppice woodland. We're managing it for woodland products. We're hedge laying here, as you can see, and this is coppicing hazel. So this is a hazel stool that we coppiced this year, and from that we're producing a whole range of things. We've got hedging stakes here.
So these great big stakes that come out of the coppice,
that's right.
Tree, yeah.
And so this is a really integral part of what we're doing, because it's not only providing us energy in that we're providing ourselves with firewood, but we're providing ourselves with a way of making some extra money out of the holding.
So it does strike me it's not just providing energy, but it's actually consuming vast amounts of energy, because you personally are out here chopping all that hazel to make the stakes, to make the firewood. And there's a lot of physical graft involved in the small holding, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. And it's one of the things that I guess people, when they come and have a look, and especially when the sun's shining, they don't realise quite how much hard work it is.
Besides feeding his family with homegrown produce, Simon earns his living from the small holding he's created.
This is what brings us our income, and I've got a customer just turning up now. And this box was one that I harvested today.
It's absolutely straight out of the ground by the look of it.
Yeah,
it's beautifully
all harvested today.
I guess this box of fresh produce is a symbol of everything you're trying to achieve with your small holding, isn't it?
I think it is in many ways, because it does collect together a lot of what we're doing out on the holding. And it's for me, it also relates to what we're trying to do when we were setting it up by creating a sustainable small holding, or a vision of what one sustainable small holding could look like that was connected to the local community.
Hey, Alice, expectant customer.
More veggie box.
Wow, this looks good. What have I got today?
Got the first rhubarb of the season.
Wow.
And curly kale.
That looks very good, I have to say. Yes, nice for the first spring box.
Oh, yes, of course.
Simon's reinvention of the small holding strikes a chord with his dad. He remembers his childhood here in the 1930s.
And this is my dad.
How do you do?
This is Nick.
Hello, Nicholas.
Very nice to meet you.
And you?
And Dad used to deliver milk round the village, didn't you?
Yes, I used to deliver milk around the village. We used to have carers, and they were taken out, and you had a bucket and a measure, which you tipped into a jug.
It's one of the things I quite like, because we're now producing food for the local village in the same way that Dad and grandfather and great-great-grandfather under the door, and hopefully George or Maddie will be following in the footsteps of the family, and it gives it that long-term view of things, which I think is really nice.
By turning the clock back to an older style of farming, Simon is also looking to the future, creating a viable business which he hopes to pass on to his own children when the time comes.